New Life in the UK Test. Episode 11. There are 5 chapters in this study guide, Values and Principles of the UK. What is the UK? A long and illustrious history. A modern, thriving society. The UK government, the law and law role. The Glorious Revolution. James II's elder daughter, Mary, was married to her cousin William of Orange, the Protestant ruler of the Netherlands. In 1688, important Protestants in England asked William to invade England and proclaim himself king. When William reached England, there was no resistance. James fled to France and William took over the throne, becoming William III in England, Wales and Ireland, and William II of Scotland. William ruled jointly with Mary. This event was later called the Glorious Revolution, because there was no fighting in England and because it guaranteed the power of Parliament, ending the threat of a monarch ruling on his or her own as he or she wished. James II wanted to regain the throne and invaded Ireland with the help of a French army. What you need to know. James II's elder daughter, Mary, was married to her cousin William III in England, Wales and Ireland, and William II of Scotland. William ruled jointly with Mary. Glorious Revolution. Possible question is, James II's elder daughter, Mary, was married to William of Orange, who was William of Orange, an army officer, a poet, a journalist, her cousin. Correct answer is, he was Mary's cousin. Possible question 2 is this statement true or false? There was no fighting in England and because it guaranteed the power of Parliament, ending the threat of a monarch ruling on his or her own as he or she wished, called Glorious Revolution. True. False. Correct answer is true. There was no fighting in England and because it guaranteed the power of Parliament, ending the threat of a monarch ruling on his or her own as he or she wished, called Glorious Revolution. Battle of the Boyne. William defeated James II at the Battle of the Boyne in Ireland in 1690, an event which is still celebrated by some in Northern Ireland today. An attempt at an armed rebellion in support of James was quickly defeated at Killiecrankie. What you need to know. Who defeated James II? Where? And the year. Possible question is, in 1690. William defeated James II in Ireland. Which battle was that? Battle of Hastings, Battle of Bannockburn, Battle of the Boyne, Battle of Agincourt. Correct answer is, Battle of the Boyne. William defeated James II at the Battle of the Boyne in Ireland in 1690. MacDonalds of Glencoe. All Scottish clans were required formally to accept William as king by taking an oath. The MacDonalds of Glencoe were late in taking the oath and were all killed. Jacobites. Some continued to believe that James was the rightful king, particularly in Scotland. Some joined him in exile in France, others were secret supporters. James' supporters became known as Jacobites. What you need to know. The MacDonalds of Glencoe were late in taking the oath. James's supporters. Possible question is, some continued to believe that James was the rightful king, particularly in Scotland, known as Cavaliers. Jacobites. Roundheads. Suffragette. Correct answer is, Jacobites. The First World War. The early 20th century. The early 20th century was a time of optimism in Britain. The nation, with its expansive empire, well-admired navy, thriving industry and strong political institutions, was what is now known as a global superpower. On the 28th of June 1914, this era of optimism and progress was cut short when war broke out between several European nations. On the 28th of June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated. This set off a chain of events leading to the First World War, 1914–18. What you need to know. On the 28th of June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. First World War, 1914–18. Possible question is, when did the First World War end? In 1916, in 1928, in 1918, in 1914. Correct answer is, in 1918. Allied powers. The conflict was centered in Europe, but it was a global war involving nations from around the world. Britain was part of the Allied powers, which included, amongst others, France, Russia, Japan, Belgium, Serbia, and later, Greece. Italy, Romania and the United States fought on behalf. More than 1 million Indians fought on behalf of Britain in lots of different countries, and around 40,000 were killed. Men from the West Indies, Africa, Australia, New Zealand and Canada also fought with the British. The Allies fought against the Central Powers, mainly Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire and later Bulgaria. What you need to know. Britain was part of the Allied powers. Indians around 40,000 were killed. Central Powers. Possible question is, how many Indians fought on behalf of Britain were killed during World War I? Around 40,000, around 50,000, around 80,000, around 60,000. Correct answer is, around 40,000 were killed. Attack on the Somme. Millions of people were killed or wounded, with more than 2 million British casualties. One battle, the British attack on the Somme in July 1916, resulted in about 60,000 British casualties on the first day alone. First World War ended. The First World War ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November 1918 with victory for Britain and its allies. What you need to know. 11 a.m. on the 11th of November, 60,000 British casualties on the first day alone. Possible question is, when people celebrate Remembrance Day in England and other countries. 11 a.m. on the 11th of March. 11 a.m. on the 11th of November, 11 a.m. on the 11th of October, 11 a.m. on the 11th of July. Correct answer is, 11 a.m. on the 11th of November. The Second World War. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany in 1933. He believed that the conditions imposed on Germany by the Allies after the First World War were unfair. He also wanted to conquer more land for the German people. The British government tried to avoid another war. However, when Hitler invaded Poland in 1939, Britain and France declared war in order to stop his aggression. What you need to know. Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. Hitler invaded Poland in 1939. Possible question is, what year did Poland become an independent country? In 1919, in 1949, in 1939, in 1959. Correct answer is, in 1939, Poland became independent country. Axis powers. The war was initially fought between the Axis powers, Fascist Germany and Italy, and the Empire of Japan, and the Allies. The main countries on the Allied side were the UK, France, Poland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the Union of South Africa. Having occupied Austria and invaded Czechoslovakia, Hitler followed his invasion of Poland by taking control of Belgium and the Netherlands. Then, in 1940, German forces defeated Allied troops and advanced through France. At this time of national crisis, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister and Britain's war leader. What you need to know. Axis powers. Allied powers. Prime Minister during the war. Possible question is, who was the Prime Minister during the Second World War? Boris Johnson, Alfred the Great, Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill. Correct answer is the Dunkirk spirit. Many civilian volunteers in small pleasure and fishing boats from Britain helped the Navy to rescue more than 300,000 men from the beaches around Dunkirk. The evacuation gave rise to the phrase, the Dunkirk spirit. What you need to know. Fishing boats from Britain helped the Navy. Possible question is, Which of the following statements is correct? Many civilian volunteers in small pleasure and fishing boats from Britain helped the Navy to rescue more than 300,000 men, known as the Dunkirk Spirit. Many civilian volunteers in small pleasure and fishing boats from Britain helped the Navy to rescue more than 300,000 men, known as the Glorious Revolution. Correct answer is many civilian volunteers in small pleasure and fishing boats from Britain helped the Navy to rescue more than 300,000 men, known as the Dunkirk Spirit. The Battle of Britain. The British resisted with their fighter planes and eventually won the crucial aerial battle against the Germans, called the Battle of Britain, in the summer of 1940, wanted to invade Britain. The Germans waged an air campaign against Britain. The most important planes used by the Royal Air Force in the Battle of Britain were the Spitfire and the Hurricane, which were designed and built in Britain. What you need to know. The war between Britain and Germany. Possible question is, which battle fought against Germans in 1940? Battle of Hastings. Battle of Britain. Battle of Bannockburn. Battle of the Boyne. Correct answer is Battle of Britain. The Blitz Spirit. Despite this crucial victory, the German Air Force was able to continue bombing London and other British cities at nighttime. This was called the Blitz Spirit. Possible question is, which of the following statements is correct? German Air Force was able to continue bombing London and other British cities at nighttime. This was called the Blitz Spirit. German Air Force was able to continue bombing London and other British cities at nighttime. This was called the Blitz, the Dunkirk Spirit. The correct answer is, German Air Force was able to continue bombing London and other British cities at nighttime. This was called the Blitz Spirit.